Hello, my name is Michael Tomatis with the RouteHub Training Program, and in this video series, I will be teaching you how to set up the F5 Big IP appliance step by step for the Local Traffic Manager module, or LTM. And it is the LTM module that provides server load balancing for a data center environment. Now, before we get into those videos, let me quickly explain some of the main highlights and design steps that you should consider before configuring a Big IP to provide server load balancing. The Big IP appliance can be deployed to provide many different types of functions. Its most common use case is being configured as a load balancer. Well, the Big IP offers this and other capabilities that you see listed here as application modules based on the license that you purchase. There is the Local Traffic Manager, or the LTM module, which provides server load balancing. There is the GTM module, which provides global load balancing. And there are other modules providing web acceleration, application security, to even WAN optimization. Again, from this list, LTM and GTM are the most common that are usually deployed from the F5 Big IP family. So this video series is focused on deploying the LTM module on the Big IP appliance. The first thing that needs to be done is gathering the requirements, and these here are the main details that should be determined. This will help for choosing the correct Big IP appliance and what needs to be configured. So you need to determine how many servers will exist in the server farm, including what application will be running that will be load balanced among those servers. It will likely be web and secure web applications that could be running. Next, you need to estimate the number of concurrent transactions that will occur through the Big IP appliance per second, or the TPS, the transactions per second. This information is gathered from the application or system team who will manage the applications on the servers. They will know how the application works and understand the estimated number of transactions and the time to process those transactions on a given server for a single user who is connected. For some environments, this may be tough for those type of teams to determine without proper stress testing and may likely involve the application vendor to assist with the capacity planning and those recommendations as well. Here's a quick baseline to help you estimate the expected TPS through your load balance appliance. Determine the following about your environment. Determine the maximum number of clients, unique and returning clients, expected through the load balancer. For a single session or a connection, determine the number of transactions that usually happen and for how many seconds those transactions are run by a client who is connected to a server. So for example, let's say that the maximum number of client connections will be around 5,000. And let's say that each connection usually involves 10 transactions processed in 20 seconds. Well, that's a long time to process average transactions, but that is what the application team reports back to us. So using this formula that I provided, that will be 10 divided by 20, then times 5,000. That will be 2,500 transactions per second. Therefore, I should consider looking at a Big IP appliance that supports 2,500 TPS and higher, like the Big IP 2000 series. But once again, this is only a rough baseline to follow to get you started to understand how to estimate your calculations of your TPS. And back to our requirements gathering, there are other components that may be required for your environment, such as load balancing methods, health monitoring, persistence, to SSL processing and termination. These are components that we will talk about further and deploy on our Big IP appliance. Based on the requirements, you want to determine the best Big IP appliance that can be used. This can either be a hardware appliance or a virtual appliance, but it all comes down to the performance and the transactions per second that is required. So below here is a chart of some of the most current Big IP appliances based on a number of factors, such as the interface types, CPU, memory, power, and of course transactions per second for SSL encryption and so forth. It's recommended to check out the F5 website for the most current release of Big IP appliances that you can choose from. So from this chart, let's say that we want to choose the Big IP 2000 series, one of these here. Well, we know that this has support for GigE and 10 GigE interfaces that is supported. It has dual core CPUs. It has 8 gigs for memory, support for dual power supplies. And we see that the TPS supported on this appliance or these appliances ranges from 2,000 to 4,000 transactions per second. Also, if you are using the hardware appliance of the Big IP, there are other orderable options that you can add to it. Some of these things include redundant power supplies, which we see that is supported on pretty much all of these modules. Installing a FIPS-enabled SSL acceleration card, purchasing SP Ethernet optics, to even upgrading the appliance with more memory. In our design, this is what our data center and server farm will look like for what we'll be configuring in this video series. Our configuration will be focused on the Big IP appliance itself. Within our design, the Big IP appliance that we will be using will be a virtual appliance, and each of our servers here will also be virtual machines that will all exist on our VMware ESXi server that will be connected into our network. Now, let me quickly talk about some of the different networks that we see that will exist within our data center network. So we will have a LAN-facing interface or internal, and will connect directly into the server farm network, which is VLAN 201. And this is the network, which is 172.17.201.0. So .1 will be configured on this LAN-facing interface on our appliance, and this will be the default gateway for all of our servers in the farm for communicating out for all client requests. You'll also see on the server farm network the show IP of each of the servers that we'll be using, and of course the names that we're going to be calling them and referencing them by as part of our configuration. We will have a WAN-facing interface that will be plugged into a separate external VLAN that is connected within our internet edge, and we will have a firewall, a FortiGate firewall, which is connected directly into our internet cloud. And we will have a management network, which is the 192.168.101.0 network, and we will configure an IP on the management interface of the Big IP to be .254. This is the actual IP that we will use to administer this appliance for the server pools, the virtual servers, and monitoring the activity of our load balancing configuration. So once again, these are the different networks that will exist. We will have our internal facing interface, which will exist in VLAN 201. We will have an external VLAN that is for the WAN facing interface of our Big IP appliance, and how our clients will connect to for accessing our server farm that will be load balanced. And we will have a management interface, dedicated management interface they will use to administer the Big IP and all of the components that will follow in this video series. And from there, that is all the configuration aspects of the Big IP appliance and what we will cover step by step. Therefore, proceed with the video labs in this series for learning how to deploy the Big IP using the LTM module.